Join as we learn Chumash for Wednesday, the fourth Torah reading of Parshas Behar-Bechukosai combined. This fourth Torah reading will bring us from the Torah reading of Behar into Bechukosai as well. The Torah now tells us the laws pertaining a Hebrew, Jewish slave, as well as a Gentile slave, and how and way we deal with them. Chapter 25, verse 39. Verse 39. If your brother becomes destitute with you, and therefore he is sold to you, do not work with him a labor that would be like a bondsman. What does this mean? How do you not make him a slave if he was sold to you? So Rashi explains as follows. Avodah shel genai. Don't give him embarrassing labor. That he then will look like to everybody that he's a slave. For example, don't make him carry your clothes for you to the washhouse. Don't get him to start putting on your shoes for you. These are things that are not meant for a Jewish slave, but for not more fitting for a Gentile slave. How then should you treat him? Rather, he must be employed to you like an employee, or a hired resident. He may only work with you until the Jubilee year. You should give him work, which is like working with the ground or other types of labor, like other hired workers that you have. Until the Jubilee year. That even if the Jubilee year comes before his 6 years are up, then he goes out at the Jubilee year. And he leaves from you. He must leave you. Therefore, as well, that ends the obligation of that as long as he works for you, you have an obligation to feed him and his family. Once he leaves, then you don't have to feed his family anymore. That means him and his children with him. The shaval mishpachti then returns to his family, v'lachuzas aviv, and then he reassumes the status of his father's Yoshuv. That's where he goes back to. Rashi hu vanav imay. Amr Rab Shimon. Rab Shimon says, what does it mean, him and his children? Im hu nimkar banav mimachran. If he sold himself, who sold his children? Elamikan. From here we learn sherabi chayvim zeinas banav. Here we know that the master is obligated to feed his family. That while this person is a Jewish slave for you, you are obligated to feed his family, his wife and children as well. V'lachuzas aveisav means al kaved aveisav. It goes back to the honor of his forefathers. Ve'ein lezalzalei bekach. Do not embarrass the person and say, you were once a slave. Who do you think you are? Achuzas. What does it mean? The inheritance cheskas, to whatever doesn't only mean to the property of land, but also any type of leadership or important role this individual had. Verse 42. Ki avodayim, you have to have proper respect for such an individual because the Jewish person is truly my servant. Asher Mitzrayim, I took them out of the land of Egypt, and therefore do not sell them as a slave is sold. Rashi, ki avodayim, shtare koidem, my document, that means I purchased them. They are my slaves before you purchased them as a slave. Meaning that you shouldn't go like on the slave market. Don't go on the slave market and announce, here who wants to purchase a slave, and don't put him on the stone, meaning in the place on the stand, and people would analyze, is he a good slave, not a good slave? It should not be done in a public manner of selling this kind of slave. Verse 43, do not give him any backbreaking labor, which demoralizing labor. Fear God. Don't just give him work which is unnecessary. And the only reason why you're giving it to him is to pay him and to give him backbreaking work. Warm up this cup, and it's not necessary. Or dig under this tree until I come, just to give him things to do. Shema Tamer, maybe you might say, I don't know, maybe I might need it, maybe I might not need it. Therefore, God says, he'll say it is necessary. This is something which is given over to the heart of each person. We cannot determine and say, is the person doing a necessary work or not? And therefore, God says, and you will fear God. God knows if this is necessary or not. 44. Now we're going to talk about the Gentile servants, and therefore the slaves or maidservants that you may have from the nations around you, that are around you. From them you may purchase a non-Jewish bondwoman or bondman or bondwoman from them. 44, Rashi. If you say that I'm not allowed to get this Jewish slave to work like a regular slave, so who's going to do my work for me? I will use Ba'avadai as my servant. If I can't do if with the Jewish ones I can't govern, and with the 7 nations of the world, I'm not even allowed to take them as slaves because we were told to wipe them all out. So who's going to be there to help? So therefore the Torah says, from the nations, which nations they should be for slaves. But which ones? Those that are outside the land of Israel, you can import them and bring them to be your slaves. Not those that are living within the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael. Because those 7 nations, and when you come into the land of Israel, you were told that they should eradicate them all. Verse 45, so to those residents that are living amongst you, mehem tiknu, from those you are able to purchase, and from their family that is with you, that were born in your land, and they will become part of your estate. Rashi explains who are these people that we're referring to. These people that came around from the outside lands, and they now came to you, and they bought and they married Canaanite women that are living in your land. And they gave birth. The son goes after the father, being that the father is not a Canaanite. The father is from an outside land. He's an outsider. So therefore, they're not part of the obligation of eradicating them. You're allowed to buy them as a slave. From them you will purchase. Meaning, oisam tiknu, those nations are the ones that you're going to be able to purchase as servants. Verse 46. You will then retain ownership for your children as you inherit an estate. The same way your children inherit your estate, they will also inherit your slaves. They must then work for you forever. But as for your brothers, the Israelites, no man are you allowed to make your brother with back-breaking labor. Meaning, hold on to these slaves as an inheritance for the need of your children later on. It doesn't mean to explain, as in other places, meaning that you should give them and they become as an inheritance to your children, because then what it said, and your children will inherit them. Therefore, you have to keep them, inquire them, that they will be an acquisition that will be for you for eternity, that you will be able to give them over to your children as well. Lahavi, what does it mean? This, what does it mean? A person and his brother. If the Torah already said before, you're not allowed to give them any back-breaking labor, this is coming to tell us as well, even if it's a leader amongst the Jewish people or a king, they are also told that they cannot give a Jew back-breaking labor. Verse 47, now if this individual decides that if a residential alien, meaning a ger v'seishaf, a residential or alien, gains means, and because of that, your brother becomes destitute, and because of that, v'nimker leger teishaf, and then he's sold to this resident alien which is amongst you, oile eker mishpachas ger, or if he's sold to a family, an idol, to serve as an attendant, as an idol of a non-Jewish family or a convert. What does this mean? Rashi explains as follows. 47. Yad ger v'teishav. Ger v'teishav. That means he's a resident, but he's an alien. Meaning he's a ukedarkume aral teishav. He is a non-Jewish person who is not circumcised, but he's living amongst you. As we see at the end, that he's sold to a ger teishav, meaning that he's a convert, he comes from another land, but he's allowed to live in the land of Israel, because since he accepted upon himself that he's not going to serve idolatry. Who caused that this individual, that this non-Jew, should be able to make that much money? That's because since he's hanging around the Jewish people, and the blessing of the Jewish people goes to him as well, and he's able to have money. But what happens is, who caused that this individual should not have money? Because he was learning from the Gentiles, and therefore he thought he was going to be able to excel this way, but unfortunately he became destitute because of it. This is the family of the ger. This is the non-Jew that we're talking about before, that he's living in the land of Israel because since he's not going to serve idolatry. However, when he uses the terminology eker, this is somebody who is actually sold to be an attendant and work for the idolatry. To be an attendant for idolatry. Not to serve it. He was given the job that he should be able to do things to be able to help the idolatry, whether it's to chop wood for it or serve water for it, get water for it, and so on. And therefore, as we're going to see in the next verse, that we have to try to get this person out, because he shouldn't be there working for a Gentile, and number two, even more importantly, that he shouldn't be there working for somebody that is an attendant for idolatry. After he was sold, he must have unlimited rights of redemption. One of his brothers must redeem him, and to redeem him immediately to prevent him from assimilating amongst the non-Jewish culture. Miyad, you should redeem him right away, that he shouldn't be able to, that he shouldn't assimilate. 50. How are you going to redeem him? So the way you're going to do it is as follows. 49. Who are the people that can redeem him? If his brothers cannot redeem him, then either his uncle, ben daidai, or the son of his uncle, which would be your cousin, Yigalenu, should redeem him. Or if any of his next closest relatives, mimishpachte, from his family, Yigalenu should redeem him. Or he becomes able to afford it, and he can be redeemed on his own. Verse 50. How are you going to redeem him? So then the redemption must be done in a fair and equitable way. You will then calculate with the purchaser from the time that he was sold to him until the Jubilee year. And then you figure out. Then your purchase price will be the amount of number of years, will be considered as if he was working him as a hired worker. You calculate the amount of time that he worked for him, the amount of time that was left, and you'll divide that amount of years, and the result will be that to consider the years working for him as a hired worker, and he pays him for that amount. Rashi explains, what does this mean? If you're coming to redeem him from the Gentile, you cannot buy him for the whole time that he paid for him, because since he's going out now. He didn't buy the entire person individually. He only bought him that he was going to work until the Jubilee year. Because he was going to go out in the Jubilee year anyway. As it's going to say in verse 54, he goes out in the Jubilee year. But of course, we're talking about in a case where the Gentiles under the Jewish jurisdiction, that you have the ability to tell them that when it comes to Jubilee year, this guy was going to go out anyway. If Afal became still in all, and you're going to come and redeem him, do not try to come and to cheat your way out of this, because Chil Hashem, we don't want to desecrate God's name, and we know that this person paid for this fellow. So when you're coming to redeem him, you'll make a proper calculation according to the amount of years that this guy worked. You're going to pay him for it. And according to this, you'll be able to minus the amount of money that you owe him. So for example, let's say there was 20 years left until the Yovel year, until the Jubilee year. And he caught him, and he bought him for 20 mana. So it means that the non-Jew bought this slave for a mana per year. There were 20 years to the Jubilee year. He paid 20 mana. That's a mana per year. V'im sha'atzli chamishanim ubaligal. So now he was there for 5 years, and you want to redeem him. Yinakale chamisha, so minus 5 mana. V'yitl yev tesvav manim. You give him 15 mana because he paid 20. He worked for him 5 years. Minus 5 because he got his money was worth of that amount of time, and therefore he goes free. Therefore, what it says in the verse, and this is that is the amount of money that he gave for the amount of years, for amount of years that he was like a hired worker. You have to make a calculation of how much money this person is valued that he should be able to get for every single year. As if he was hired for every single year, for that amount of money, for the money, and he'll minus that, and that's the amount of money that he gets paid. That means if he worked for 5 years and he bought him for 20, he gets the amount of 15 years because that's what amount that he paid for. And the other 5 years, he already got paid, he already worked for him. Verse 51, if there are still a lot of years left, it's still many years remaining until the Jubilee years, accordingly he has to return his redemption, the money to the purchaser, out of the money of which what he purchased. Rashi, a lot of years left to Yovel. Lefian, according to that, will be his redemption. Like Rashi explained previously, that you will minus off the amount of years that are left, and that's the value that he would get. Verse 52. What if only a few years are remaining until the Jubilee year? You will calculate according to that amount of years. You'll return the money of his redemption to the purchaser according to the amount of years that are left until the Jubilee year. It must be considered by the purchaser as an employee who was hired on a yearly basis, and therefore he got his value for the yearly basis. The purchaser is not allowed to oppress him with back-breaking labor in your sight. Rashi 53. Meaning, you should not see that the individual is you should not allow that if you see that he is giving him back-breaking labor, you're quiet, you see it, and you're quiet and you don't protest, you have to make sure that this non-Jew does not give the Jewish person back-breaking labor. 54. If he was not redeemed through any of these ways that we mentioned before, whether a relative, an uncle, or any person of the sort, he goes out in the Jubilee year, he and his children with him. 54. Meaning he could be redeemed with these ways, meaning that the relatives can redeem him. But he doesn't go out in 6 years. That only works when a Jew is sold to another Jew. A Jew that's sold to a Gentile, he waits until the Jubilee year. From here we learn that even the non-Jew is obligated to support his family as well, just like the Jew. Ki Yisrael, just like the Jew. 55. Because the Jewish people are my servants. They serve Avadayhem, they serve me. That I took them out of the land of Egypt. I am their God. My document comes first. They are my servants first. Any person who makes them work down here in this world is as if he is also making them work as if he is taking them and they're working for me as well, because since he is taking my servants. Verse 20, chapter 26, verse 1. You should not make for yourselves idols. And do not set up for yourselves sculptured images. And will not make a pedestal and you must not lay pavement of stones, which you will then prostrate yourselves on them, to bow down on them, because I am your God. Rashi. All this that is mentioned, including the next verse pertaining keeping the Shabbos, it's talking about a person, being that we're concluding and talking about an individual who was sold to a Gentile. The person shouldn't say, being that I'm already sold to a Gentile, my master is a Gentile, my master is committing adultery, so I should do the same. My master is serving idols, I will do the same. My master is desecrating the Shabbos, I will do the same. Therefore, these verses are stated right afterwards, saying, Also, these sections were said according to the order. Meaning, first God tells us about the sabbatical year. If a person desires money so much and therefore he's going to work during the sabbatical year, what's going to happen? The end is he's going to have to sell all his belongings. Therefore, the next thing is if you're going to sell something. What happens when you sell something? He buys something from another individual, which is not his own property, but movable and tangible property. Something which you can buy and purchase to give from one person to the next. If a person still does not repent, and he still doesn't repent from the actions and the wayward ways that he does, he's going to have to sell even his own property, his own home, his own real estate. He doesn't realize his wrongdoings and he has to sell his field. He'll have to sell even his own home that he lives in. He still doesn't repent. Then he's going to have to borrow with interest. Each one is getting more and more difficult from the next. He still continues in his wayward ways and he doesn't repent. Then he has to then sell himself. Not only is he not going to be sold to a Jew, but will be sold to a non-Jew. The Evan Maskis, Loshin Kisi, the word Maskis means like a stone that you put as a pavement. Copy that I will put my hands on. That they would cover the earth with beautiful stones to that they should be able to bow down in it. Even if when he's bowing down to God. When we talk about bowing, it means in completely prostrating themselves on the stone. And over here, the Torah tells us that even though that he may have intent for God, the only place a person is allowed to bow down completely on stone was in the Holy Temple. The Torah prohibited a person from bowing down completely with his hands and feet only in the Holy Temple, nowhere else. Verse 2, you must guard the Shabbos, and you must fear my sanctuary. Ani Hashem, I am God. Ani Hashem, I am God. Rashi says, you can trust that I will pay reward and give the proper rewards to those that follow and observe these commandments. We now go into the second Torah reading of this week, which is the Torah reading of Behar-Bechukosai, where the Torah tells us the reward, going from one reward, but telling us about the reward of fulfilling God's commandments. Chapter 26, verse 3. In Behar-Bechukosai telechu. If you were to follow and advance the knowledge of my rules, and you will safeguard my commandments, and you will do them. In Behar-Bechukosai telechu, Rashi says, what does this mean? In Behar-Bechukosai telechu, I would think that this means observance of the commandments. But then it says right afterwards, that you will guard the commandments. So then he already says about the commandments. What do I learn from here? What does it mean that if you will go in my ways, besides following the commandments, but you will work hard in the study and making sure you advance in the knowledge and the study of Torah? Why are you going to work hard and advance in the knowledge of Torah? In order to know and to keep the words of the commandments. You will study the Torah, and because of that, you'll be able to keep them. And over here also we know the word im doesn't only mean if, but God is pleading with us that you should keep them. Therefore, God can give us the proper reward, as we see in the following verse 4. And I will give you your rain in time. And the ground and the earth will yield its produce. And the tree of the field will give its fruit. Rashi bi'itam. What does it mean in its proper time? In the time when people are not traveling or not out of their homes, for example, on the Wednesdays of each week, that people wouldn't go out of their home because they were afraid of damaging angels. On Friday nights, that people are at home enjoying themselves, and therefore people don't go out as well. and the tree of the wood of the tree, the wood of the field will give its fruit. So here the Torah is referring to the time of the coming of Mashiach, when even trees who don't usually bear fruit will give fruit as well. Verse 5, V'hisig lochem dayish, threshing will occupy until the grapes, V'hisig lochem dayish is batir, that the threshing will occupy you until the grape harvest. V'ez ba'atir yasig esara, and the harvesting the grapes will keep you busy until the sowing. V'achaltem lachmechem, and you will eat your bread, and you will lasoiva, and you'll be satiated with it. V'yishaftem lavetach ba'artzachem, and you will live securely in your land without fear of a drought. So much to do with the grape harvest. You'll be so busy with it until the end of the summer, which then is the time to harvest the grapes. And you'll be so busy harvesting the grapes that you'll be busy until it comes time to sow, which that is the winter as well. You'll eat your bread to be satiated. You'll eat a little bit. And it will be blessed in your stomach that you'll have so much you'll be satiated from it. Verse 6, and I will give you peace in your land. You will lie down and you'll sleep peacefully without the cause of fear. And there will be no cause of fear because I will remove the wild beasts from the land. And no foreign army will pass through your land. There will be no sword that will come through your land. Rashi v'nasati shalim. Shema temri may say, I have food, I have drink. But the problem is, the main shalom in klum. If there's no peace, that means nothing. I can have all the food I want, but if I'm not able to eat it, I can't enjoy it. Therefore, the verse tells us, I'm going to give you peace. From here we learn, peace is as valuable as everything. Then Isaiah says that the one that creates light, creates darkness, makes peace, and also creates the bad that comes along with it. That you can have peace, but at the opposite of peace is the bad of with it. If it's going to be peace, so then why does he have to tell me no sword will go through your land, that no war will be there? Not only they're not going to come through your land for war, but they will, even for peaceful reasons, they're just not going to travel through your land at all. Verse 7. You will pursue your enemies, and they will fall before you by the sword. Verse 7. They will fall by the sword, not by your sword, by each other's, because they'll be so confused they won't realize who's chasing them, and they will just be killing each other. 5 of your weakest will pursue 100 of them. 500 of them. And 100 of you, Rivava your doif, will be able to pursue 10,000. And your enemies will fall before you by the sword in a miraculous way. What do you mean they will be chased? You pursue them. The weakest of you, not from the strong guys. That means the weakest of you will pursue 500. Is this actually the calculation that 5 will do 500? 5 will do 500. I'm sorry, 5 will do 100, and 100 will do 10,000. What is this referring to? So the Torah continues. The Torah could have just said that 100 will be able to chase 2,000. You can't compare when a lot of people get together and there's so many good deeds and they're learning Torah, automatically their numbers multiply much more. It's not that you get automatic calculation, but when you have so many people who are Torah observant and following the words of the Torah and following what God tells us, automatically the numbers go up and you can overcome them by much more. That they will fall before you, not like the usual way, but in miraculous ways. Verse 9, and therefore I will turn my attention to you. And I will make you multiple, and I will make you fruitful. and I will multiply you and make you tall, make you great, and I will establish my covenant with you. Rashi, I will pay my attention, I will go away from everything I'm doing to make sure that you get paid properly. What does this compare to? To a king that hires workers, and as it's explained in Torah Kohanim, that he hires many workers, and over there was one worker who he spent with him a lot of time, more than anybody else. And this is what, and then at the end, all the workers come to get the reward. This guy also walks in, and the king says to him, you know what? I'm going to pay attention to you more than anybody else, and you, I have a special calculation that I have with. And this is what God is telling the Jewish people. Yes, I deal with everybody, but with you I have a very special calculation. What does it mean? I will multiply you, that you will have, you'll be fruitful, you'll have my blessing with children. That you will be able to, not only will you have many children, not only will you be fruitful, but you also stand that you will be physically robust and tall from everybody else. I make a new covenant, not like the first covenant that you reneged on. Now, the a new covenant that you'll never be able to renege on. Shnemer, as it says in Jeremiah, that when Mashiach comes, I will make a covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judea, a new covenant, not like the first covenant that you have already reneged on, but a covenant that will never be able to be reneged on. This concludes the fourth Torah reading of Parshas Behar-Bechukosai combined.